Hey everybody, I'm Asian Funk. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm joined by a really awesome guest. She is a Canadian artist, author, and sketch card industry veteran. She has created work for Tops, Cryptozoic Entertainment, Perna Studios, RR Parks, Rittenhouse, Archives, Upper Deck, and many, many more. Ingrid Hardy, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of your work. I actually, I just acquired this Ant-Man card here behind me.
What did you?
Yeah. And this was actually the first piece of your work that I ever saw. And I was like, I love it.
You're a Marvel fan, right? Is that the
Yeah,
correct
more
name?
Marvel than DC, but I like all kinds. But primarily Marvel, yeah.
Okay, cool. That's all good.
So yeah. And I think what's really unique is that you don't really see a lot of like painted sketch cards. You know, you don't really see this type of art style on a sketch card because usually it's pen or marker or ink. And so I just thought that
Yeah,
was really,
that's a lot. That's mostly due to the amount of time that we're given. It takes time to paint, even if we paint fast. And when it's for sets, I have to paint fast because we don't have a lot of time to do it.
Mhm.
But there are more and more people who are now beginning to paint, which I think is cool,
Yeah,
but pen and ink and pencil and marker, there are people who can do outstanding work with those mediums. I think it's all good. It's all those mediums, they have something to give to it, and they all have something to say.
So one of my questions is, do you know how many sketch cards you've done
Oh
since
God, no.
2005?
No, I don't know.
No.
I have
Would
no
you,
idea.
if you had to take a guess, how many sketch cards do you think you've done since you started?
In all total?
Yeah,
Ooh,
just throw a number out.
maybe 8 or 9,000 in all, maybe more. I don't know. That there were, in the beginning, I did a lot of like in the beginning, like 2005, 2006 and all that. It was different when you were working for sketch card sets. You had to do between 1 and 400 cards per set, and you had to do them within like 2-3 weeks or something like that. So
Oh,
I did a
fast
bunch of
turnaround.
those. So I don't know, maybe it could be even 10,000 or something. I don't know. I'm not good at math. I don't know. A
Wow.
lot of cards. But we
10,000.
don't
That's
do, well, hardly anybody does numbers like that anymore. We don't have to. That's changed for the better for that. It's a work in progress. The whole sketch card industry, it's changing.
yeah.
It will change. Who knows if we'll actually stick around? It's a hobby for most people, so it may wear out its welcome one day. I don't know. I hope
Sure.
not.
What is a sketch card in terms of like in the non-sport collecting world? Can you describe what a sketch card is?
Yes, a sketch card is, in the non-sport terms, saying, hey, what do you do for a living? Well, I work in sketch cards. What's a sketch card? Okay, well, a sketch card is like miniature art. Generally speaking, it is 2.5 by 3.5 inches, which is which is the size of a trading card. So everybody knows how big a trading card is. At least I think so. So that's that. And a sketch card would be, instead of having the image on it, it's a sketch, a drawing. I believe Topps was among the first to put in actual sketch cards. There are a lot of theories about where the sketch cards or trading cards even may have come from, but that's a different story. But back in those days, some of the artists who actually worked in comic books, they were sometimes asked to create sketches on trading card size cards, on blank ones that were printed especially for it. So they were actually asked to simply sketch just a few quick lines on a card, and they would be inserted into packs that were in the collections of cards that everybody knew: hockey cards, baseball cards, the non-sport cards, movies, TV, blah blah blah, all of that stuff. Mostly movies, I think, in those days, actually. And I don't know if there were sports sketch cards in those days, but anyway, yeah, it was just sketches at that time. So that was where that came from. And then over the years, well, it became a thing. People like other stuff, other inserts that were inserted into non-sport, holograms and all those things. Well, it began to kind of get its own little following of, and through the years, it kind of slowly built. And then as the years rolled by, well, when you're paid $1 or $2 or something like that per card, that's not a lot of money. So you would make your money with the return cards. They would give you some, usually leave you some that you could, take a little bit more time to draw on, and then you could maybe ask for a little more money, and that would kind of be a little bit of, side income or something like that. Well, now fast forward to this century, and there are artists who actually, it's part of the living. I don't know too many who make a living with sketch cards alone. I think there are a couple, but not very many.
Do you know why there's a shift to inviting non-comic book artists to start creating sketches?
The little that I know of that, and actually I just finished reading an interview that I was doing for my next book. Sorry, self-plug there.
No, not at all.
Who was it? Who was one of two tops art directors at the time? Demand will always drive invention. So I imagine that the companies were like, this is, if there's sketch cards, there's some people who will, buy the boxes more. So slowly they ask a few people, from what I understand, again, I'm probably wrong, but from what I understand, I think it went very much word of mouth in the beginning. The artists that they used to work for, well, do you know someone else who might like to do a few sketches on cards for us? And then it kind of went that way. And then finally, it very much grew that way. In my time, when I started, when I got into the sketch card thing, it was a Topps art director who had seen my work and called me to ask if I wanted to participate. They would, that's the way they would ask you, they would call you, and it was like a thrill, like the Star Wars 30th anniversary was my first set. So it was like, oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big license.
It sure is. I'm still working on those. So yeah. But
the gift that keeps on giving.
So no, I'm no complaints from me. So yeah, what was I saying? So that was in that time, you kind of got referred to, people would refer other people they knew to an art director and say, well, hey, if you need somebody. At that time, they would sometimes ask us artists, do you know someone who might like to do this? Now I don't know. I think they get a lot of people who mail in their samples.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really need to do that anymore. But at that time in 2005, you would have to ask other artists for before that. But from my time, that was the way they did it. Artists who start in this, they're thinking, oh my God, it's my claim to fame, blah, 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 I'm going to be rich. It's just not the case. That does not happen. You do this because you like it. You can make a little bit of money, but you're not gonna buy you're not gonna buy your second house with this job. Let me tell you, that's just not gonna happen. So you do it because you love it,
right?
Have I mentioned that a little too much?
No, but I think do you think that is the biggest misconception about being a sketch card artist, is that it can be a primary source of income?
Now I don't know, because I don't participate in forums as much as I used to. But even just 10 years ago, absolutely, yes. And it was like, oh, if I can do this, I'm set. And it's just not the case. And, after a few years of doing it, you kind of have to find a way to be excited about it. Like anything else in life, when you do the same job, it gets to be, it's like, how can I make this fresh, so that I can approach it with enthusiasm again. There's a bit of that. So there are artists that drop off, and then there are artists that find another job and they don't finish what they were supposed to do. That happens too. So, there's always, they may plan to have X amount of cards, but then in the end, they may only have a smaller amount because life happens for people. And then sometimes they may have too many. I don't know.
I'm surprised that sketch cards have been around for so long, because when I discovered sketch cards, I was like, is this a new thing? But it's been around for like 30 years, over 30 years. And it's it's kind of like when you discover a new thing about a hobby that you've already liked. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm like in this honeymoon period where I'm like, there's like an endless sea of sketch cards that I could potentially find. And there's like 30 years worth of sketch cards out there to look for. Why do you think
like you, that is just, it's like we need lots of people like you to come on board and discover them and be like, oh my gosh. And it keeps us going, because when people want your cards, well, it gives you reason to do them too, even if you like
Yeah,
doing them, you need people who want your cards and things. So nice that other people are beginning, and it's cool. I mean, how cool is that? It's miniature art, and you can
yeah,
have all kinds of styles. You can have realist,
absolutely.
you can have abstract, you could have cartoon, you can have black and white
Yep.
line. I mean, it's endless.
It's endless. Yeah.
You
There's
can,
an infinite number of styles that you could
yeah,
potentially be a part of.
absolutely. And I've been talking to a lot of collectors because of my book, and it's just fascinating to see how they're all so different. Some will collect a certain style only. It'll be
Yep.
anything as long as it's in that style. There are others who will collect a theme only. It can
Mm-hmm.
be any style, just that theme, or a particular movie or character, or
Yeah.
sometimes there are some collectors that will collect just one scene, the same scene done by as many artists as they can find. There are some of those, and it makes for an outstanding, when you see all one scene, same scene done by, I don't know, 30, 40 artists or something like that. That's pretty cool.
What's your process like when you're doing a commission, or when you're, doing something for Rittenhouse or a licensed brand? Um, what is usually your process for making sketch cards? Like, what do you do in order to come up with a concept? Um, how do you choose what medium you use? Because I know you have done a couple of art styles. What do you think about when you're doing a sketch card?
Well, it will often depend on which company I'm working for, of which right now I work for fewer and fewer because I just don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, it can be difficult some companies are difficult to work for, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on the company, sometimes some companies will give you a set of guidelines and you have to follow those guidelines, and that's the way it is. It has to be, sometimes it's open. There are some companies that you can do any style you want, as long as you stay within a certain set of character guidelines or scene guidelines. Others you can only draw a certain set of references. Rittenhouse was, I think it was Rittenhouse, that was quite a bit like that actually. You would have a file of so many images, and you could only draw from those images, and it had to be photorealistic. That was
Oh,
their,
wow.
yeah. So, but that's their guidelines. They can do that. That's what it had to be for them. Another company, it can, as long as you draw from, anything that has been approved by the company, the movie company, well, then the trading card company can say, well, you can draw these characters, but maybe not those, but you can have an open style as long as it's recognizable. For instance, for the latest Star Wars set that I'm working on, I decided I wanted to explore explosions. So I'm
Mm.
doing a small set of I'm going to try painting explosions and see how that goes over. So I have no idea if
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
another set I wanted to do for Star Wars. It was, that's a bunch of years ago. I just did creatures. I love to paint creatures. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided, okay, so I did only creatures for that set. Sometimes I don't really have the chance, and I'll just do what I know I'm able to do fast, because it happens sometimes even now that the deadlines can be just a couple of weeks.
Oh,
So in
uh-huh.
that case, I almost only paint, then I'll do scenes that I know I can paint quickly and at least are reasonable. They may not be super pretty, but at least I know they're more or less reasonable. So it depends on a lot of things.
How long does it take you to do one sketch card on
Um,
average?
on average for sets, because I do really low numbers, it usually takes me about anywhere between an hour and 3 hours,
From concept
depending.
to done?
Well, usually I have my idea in my head before I start the entire set, because once I get
Oh,
going, I want to do it.
yeah.
I want to think for every card when I'm doing a set to send out.
Yeah,
When I'm
yeah.
doing commission, then it's a little different. Then I'll sit down and think, what would I like to especially, I didn't used to do that, but as I've painted more and as I try to improve, one always has to kind of move forward with your skills. It's very important, and it's the only way to keep it interesting too. I try to approach it with, well, what am I trying to do these days? Am I trying to play with color? Am I trying to find a way to interpret a shape differently? How can I paint something that looks recognizable, but still is something that I did? It's pretty much the same reel that goes through my head every time I approach
Interesting.
approach
I like the idea that you try different things on different sets. Not every artist has a place for people to find them, right? Not everyone has an online presence.
That's absolutely right. One of my favorite artists, one of many of my favorite, does not have an online presence.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible shame. But anyway,
sure.
What you gonna...
And that's fine too. That's, that's a personal choice, and that's okay.
Yes.
But that's the thing, is like, as a fan or as a collector,
it's just hard to enjoy their work when you can't find it.
Exactly. Right. You can't find it, and you can't get in touch with the artist. And so basically you're just kind of waiting until it pops up. So, and even if it did, you wouldn't even know if they would, tag it correctly. And most of the time people don't even know who the artist is. So they just say sketch card, and you would never know.
And there is a lot of, tomfoolery, for lack of a better word, on selling sites. Sometimes people are tagged and that has nothing to do with that person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have counterfeit cards too. There are a lot of counterfeit sketch cards out there. A lot of black market sketch cards that should not be out there and should not have been drawn by the person that drew them. So a lot of people are actually buying sketch cards that have nothing to do with the set that they
Correct.
So anyway, that's a whole other thing.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I have one question that no one can seem to answer. Why is there no master checklist for sketches?
I didn't even know it didn't exist. I thought every set had its own checklist. I personally, and what you're saying could apply to any set, Marvel, Star Wars. I just thought of someone, I don't think they're doing it anymore though, but years and years and years ago, like again, back in the beginning, in my beginning, there was someone called Justin Chung who he had his own, I don't know where it is anymore, but he used to keep a list of all the artists that he knew or who would contact him or that he would come across. He had a site with all the, because back then there were fewer, a lot fewer. He would put a whole list, and then for each artist, he had a list of all the sets that artist had worked on. And the artist would also help to kind of auto keep that up. And also there was like a live thing of cards that had been found and were on eBay and stuff like that. But that's like eons ago, but that was actually pretty clever.
And but
I don't know if something like
that was created by a person who loved cards, right? And so if that person were to disappear or stop doing that, like Justin, then now there is no record, right? Like
I think he had to, I'm not sure, it may still be there. Again, that's over 15 years ago. It may still be there, but I doubt if he keeps it up, because as he said himself, there were beginning to be so many artists that it was a full-time job to keep up with all the, and then you almost have to have help from the artist to keep track of what sets they're in, because you can't do that yourself, and some people just don't want to do that,
right.
So
I think that's
a great idea. But that would be a full-time job for several people, I think.
Absolutely. And where are you in the process of the second book, if you can talk about that?
Oh yeah, I'm still working on the interviews. All the collectors' interviews have been done.
Oh wow.
All the art directors, I never excuse me, I never have that many art directors. First of all, there are fewer, and secondly, most of them don't reply back to me.
That's so rude.
It's so rude. Yes. Although I totally understand. They're busy. You know,
Sure,
they
yeah.
most of
They're
them most of them don't do just one job.
yeah,
Most of the art directors, they do several jobs. So, you know, they
yeah.
don't have time for stuff like that.
They're busy counting the sketch cards.
Yeah. Or dealing with us artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I'll be just that's my next phase,
Hmm.
which I'm getting into, is dealing with all of the artists, interviews and things like that, and collecting their work and permission.
Yep.
So yeah, that's moving right along. And what are we? We're almost in April. So in May, I'll be building the book and working on the formatting and writing
Yeah.
my own. There'll be a couple of articles in there. The first book was kind of like where they came from. My idea for this book is where they kind of are, and especially in pandemic and stuff. And then the third book might be, well, where might they be going, type of thing.
That's
So
great. I love that. I love that. You'll have a trilogy of
yeah.
sketch card history. When do you think the
It
book will?
Well, the for now, anyways, the Kickstarter should be starting a run in July, like last year. Last year it was the end of June, all of July. It was about a month long.
You had a really cool foreword in the first book.
Oh God,
Is
yes,
there?
that was so amazing. Steve
Do you-
Sansweet did
yeah.
yeah. Well,
The Star
he's
Wars guy, right? Yeah.
he
So
is
I was just gonna
yes.
say, can you give us a hint on who the forward will be for volume 2?
I wish I could say hang on to you, but I don't know yet.
You don't know yet. Okay.
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I am throwing feelers out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to beat Steve Sansweet, first of all.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Where do you go from there?
Where do you go from there? You know, first of all, but I'm throwing a few feelers out and seeing if something comes back, and
Yeah.
I'm taking it chill.
Sure. Yeah. I just thought,
But,
I was like, that's really awesome. I wonder who she's
yeah,
gonna get for volume 2. So I'm sure you have. I know you have a list.
I
A
do
short list.
have a few feelers out
Yeah.
again. I don't know what's going to come to fruition, so I don't want to go
Sure.
further on that one.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in getting into sketch card art? Like as an artist, not as a collector.
As an artist, be sure you like drawing a lot. That's number one.
Yeah.
Be sure you like to draw or paint or whatever it is you do. First of all. Second, be nice to people.
That's good.
Third, reach out to art directors and go to the websites and send in your stuff. And you know, that's the way you're probably going to get found, you know, by reaching out. And a lot of those people will actually reply, and sometimes people will give you some really good advice if you don't know what to do or how to get there. Just, you know, ask questions, look around, and draw what you like to draw. Paint what you like to paint. Don't do stuff you hate, because you will not enjoy it.
Where can they follow your work online? Where are you online?
But my Patreon, Facebook, I'm there all the time, so you can find me there. I always update everything on those two sites. And also, if you do go to my website, there are links there to sign up for updates if you want to be in the loop for when the Kickstarter comes out. And I'm also sending out once a month, I send out an update to everybody on the list.
Awesome. Yeah, I signed up. I'm good to go. I'm ready for those updates.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But Ingrid, it has been a pleasure to have you on the channel, just to hear about your career and what you do and your books and everything. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan, and it's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's been fun to talk to you.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to be back.
Yeah.
And if you can get me to shut up because I talk too much.